start our discussion. Let me share my screen with you guys. Okay. Can everybody see the PowerPoint? Anybody please confirm? Can you guys see the PowerPoint on your screens now? Jawad? Bilal? Okay, thank you. All right, so let's start our discussion. The first topic that we are going to talk about today is about conflict of interests. And I think we have discussed conflict of interest before as well. So before I explain it to you, I would like to hear some points related to conflict of interest from you guys. So can anybody comment on this? What do you mean by conflict of interest? Any volunteer? Mukaddas. Mukaddas, are you there? Mukaddas Javed. Mukaddas. Seems like she's not there. Nasir. Nasir?
Yes, sir.
जी, तो Nasir, what do you know about conflict of interest? क्या होता है conflict of interest? We have talked about that.
सर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट ऐसे भी डेवलप हो सकता है कि जो आपके पर्सनल इंटरेस्ट हैं और जिस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लिए आप काम कर रहे हैं उनके इंटरेस्ट आपस में मतलब मैच ना हो रहे हो और आप अपने इंटरेस्ट को प्रेफर देने ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल इंटरेस्ट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट हो सकता है। यहाँ सर ये क्लाइंट और जो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर के दरमियान में भी हो सकता है, जैसे क्लाइंट चाहता है कि उसका पैसा वेस्ट ना हो और उसको बेहतरीन प्रोडक्ट मिले, जबकि कॉन्ट्रैक्टर चाहता है कि वो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा प्रॉफिट गेन करे। यहाँ पे भी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट हो।
Okay. Actually, this conflict of interest is defined for one person or for one organization. Whenever there is conflict between two organizations or two individuals, that is, we don't call that as conflict of interest. That is just a general conflict. So conflict of interest is basically about one individual or about one organization. Let's see how do we define it formally. So a situation that has the possibility of clash between a person's self-interest and his duties. So अगर किसी इंडिविजुअल के अपने पर्सनल इंटरेस्ट और उसकी ड्यूटीज के दरमियान क्लैश आ जाए, उसे हम कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट कहते हैं. And conflict of interest occurs in probably all fields. It's not just a phenomena which is limited to civil engineering. शायद हर फील्ड में और हर इंसान जिंदगी में किसी न किसी स्टेज पे कॉन्फ्लिक्ट इंटरेस्ट जो है उसको एक्सपीरियंस करता है. सिविल इंजीनियरिंग पर्सपेक्टिव में इसकी कॉमन एग्जांपल्स कई हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, if you are, let's say, a structural designer, and I think we have discussed this example before as well, that you are a structural designer and you work for a company that provides structural design services. Now, once you have gained certain experience and learned certain skills, you might think about starting your own consultancy services. So, in parallel to your job, working in that organization, you start your own consultancy services. Now, if any client comes to that organization, the organization's interest is that the client sticks to that organization and gets services, and the company can make money. But your personal interest would be that the client should take personal services from you, then you can make more money because your salary is fixed. If the client is taking services from you as an individual or as an independent consultant, then the fee will come to your pocket. So in this situation, we will say that there is a conflict of interest. And another example of conflict of interest from the contractor side is that, let's say you are in charge of a site and you are also responsible for procurement of material. Now, if you have connection with certain vendors, you would like, or you are getting commission for from certain vendors, you would like to buy material from those vendors, regardless of the quality of the material. So in this situation, we will say that there is a conflict of interest. Conflict of interest in your personal. Uh, so there is conflict of interest in your uh, in your personal interest and in your duties. So you might think about compromising on the quality of the material just to make more money. Okay, so these were a couple of examples from civil engineering perspective. And if we think outside of the civil engineering, as I said that almost in every field we see conflict of interest. One of the example maybe, let's say there is a judge in the court of law, and now if a judge is hearing a case of his friend or his relative or his family member, now that judge most likely will have bias towards that family member or that friend. Now, his duties as a judge is to provide justice, disregard of anything, right? But if he's hearing a case of one close one, then he might have a bias towards that person. So this is another example of conflict of interest. Okay. Uh, there are a few types of conflict of interest as well. One is the actual conflict of interest. When the conflict of interest actually exists and you are pursuing your own benefit, or uh, you are giving priority to your own interest as compared to your duties, you will say that conflict of interest actually exists. That is termed as actual conflict of interest. One is potential conflict of interest. Potential conflict of interest is when there are chances that you may exploit the situation for your personal interest. Now, you may or may not be doing that, but there are chances that you may exploit the situation. So, such situation is done as potential conflict of interest. And the third type is known as perceived conflict of interest. Now, what do we mean by perceived? Perceived conflict of interest means that there is a perception that conflict exists between your personal interest and your duties. In reality, that you might not be pursuing your self-interest. You might be fulfilling your duties, but under certain cases, for example, the case of the judge, that the example that I gave, the perception might exist that you are benefiting one of the parties. So when such perception exists, we call that as perceived conflict of interest. And as a responsible professional, it is our responsibility to avoid conflict of interest in whatever form it exists. And one good ethical practice is that whenever conflict of interest exists, you clearly state that conflict of interest and you remove yourself from that situation. That is the ideal way of dealing with conflict of interest. Right, so this was the first topic that we wanted to discuss today. Now let's move to our next topic, which is environmental ethics. But before that, I would give you a chance to ask any questions. If you have any questions about conflict of interest. And in addition to that, I would also like somebody to comment on environmental ethics. That what do we mean by environmental ethics? And what are our responsibilities towards environment? Okay, I see somebody has raised his hand. Irtaza, please go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Irtaza.
Sir, my question is कि अब हमने बात conflict of interest की आपने example दी कि आप कुछ ऐसा एक फर्म में काम करते हैं और फिर अपनी फर्म खोल लेते हैं। सर मैं ये पूछना चाह रहा था कि जो फ्रीलांस कैरियर है उसमें भी लोग अपनी सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करते हैं, तो उस बारे में क्या होगा?
हाँ, देखिए, अगर आप एक कंपनी में जॉब, सिर्फ उस वक्त राइज होता है जब आप उस कंपनी में जॉब कर रहे हैं जो कि लेट्स से स्ट्रक्चरल डिजाइन की और कोई भी सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करती है, और उसके पैरेलल आप अपनी सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं। और उसमें भी रियल प्रॉब्लम उस वक्त है जब आप एक्चुअली उसके क्लाइंट्स को अपनी तरफ चैनलाइज कर रहे हैं। अगर आप वहाँ पे उस कंपनी में जॉब कर रहे हैं और जॉब करते हुए जो क्लाइंट उस कंपनी का है आप उस कंपनी के पास ही उस क्लाइंट को रहने देते हैं और आपकी अपनी एक अलग से क्लाइंट बेस है। लेट्स से आप you are working in a local company for structural design, ठीक है, you have gained the knowledge and skills, now you set up a freelance business, आप फाइवर पे, आप वर्क पे, आप और बहुत सारी वेबसाइट्स हैं, ओडेस्क पे, कहीं पे आप अपना फ्रीलांस बिजनेस शुरू करते हैं। अब वो जो फ्रीलांस बिजनेस है वहाँ पे आपकी अगर अपनी एक कस्टमर की एक बेस है और ये बिजनेसेस तो जो फ्रीलांसिंग के हैं उसमें तो आपके पास ऑनलाइन कस्टमर्स होते हैं, तो देयर इज अ गुड चांस कि आपके पास कोई इंटरनेशनल क्लाइंट हो। तो अगर आप उनको सर्विसेज इन पैरेलल प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं तो इसको हम कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट नहीं कहेंगे। परसीव्ड या पोटेंशियल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट का केस हो सकता है, पर्सनल क्लाइंट नहीं बनाते देन इट्स फाइन, फिर उसमें कोई ऐसे हर्ज की बात नहीं है। और अगर आप उस कंपनी को छोड़ के और उसके बाद अपना काम कर रहे हैं फिर तो इट्स टोटली फाइन, फिर तो परसीव्ड या पोटेंशियल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट भी है। तो आप पैरेलल से प्रोवाइड कर सकते हैं, बस आपने ख्याल ही करना है कि आप कंपनी से हटा के अपने पास ना लेके आए। और वो जो आप सर्विसेज हैं वो हो सकती हैं एज अ फ्रीलांस या वो कंपनी ऑन।
यस सर।
So now I would like anybody to
Yes, sir.
okay, comment. So what do you think? What are environmental ethics?
Environmental ethics, according to me, uh, it may be about like highlighting the importance of environmental values and like raising awareness for its preservance, for its protection, I guess, in simple words.
Okay. क्या इसकी एग्जांपल हो सकती है? एनवायरनमेंट किस तरह से इफेक्ट होता है और उसके लिए क्या किया जा सकता है?
So first of all, तो yeah, हम we see it on the daily basis कि global warming, this and that, जो फिर इसकी preservance के लिए जो हमारी एक गवर्नमेंट ने स्टेप लिया billion trees tsunami का to cool down Pakistan to a bit, तो सर आई गेस इसी तरह होता है कि थोड़े बहुत इश्यूज हाईलाइट होते हैं। ये सिर्फ कंट्री लेवल पे नहीं, सर यूएन में भी होते हैं एंड एक लेकिन सर आई डोंट थिंक कि इसे इतनी एज सच इम्पोर्टेंस दी जाती जितनी ये डिजर्व करता है।
राइट, जैसे आपने बिलियन ट्री सुनामी की बात की, दिस वाज एन इनिशिएटिव फॉर एनवायरमेंटल प्रोटेक्शन। So environmental ethics basically talk about our responsibilities towards environment, that how we are supposed to treat the environment and how we are to perform our activities so that we can minimize the harm to the environment. Okay, let's see how do we define it and what are different factors that are important in this regard. Environmental ethics is the study of ethical relationship between human beings and environment. So as a human being, we it is our responsibility to take care of the environment, and our relationship with the environment is termed as the environmental ethics. And environmental ethics provides basis for the fields of environmental protection, animal protection and nature protection. तो जो तीन फर्दर फील्ड्स हैं इनकी बेसिस जो है वो एनवायरमेंटल एथिक्स से आती है। व्हेन वी स्टडी एनवायरमेंटल एथिक्स देन these are three further branches: environmental protection, animal protection and nature protection. Now there are two different approaches worldwide for environmental ethics. First approach is termed as anthropocentric approach or human-centered approach, and this approach says that the human beings are the dominant and most important species on the Earth planet. Okay, on the planet Earth, and this gives them the power to use and manipulate the nature for their own benefit. So whatever human beings think that is needed for them, whatever is required for the good of human beings can do that, and environment or everything else is secondary. So this image, it well describes this concept of human-centered approach. ये इंसान जो है वो सबसे आला है और इंसान तमाम resources को अपनी ज़रूरियात को fulfill करने के लिए use कर सकता है. So this approach is known as anthropocentric or human-centered approach. And then there is another approach, the second approach, that is biocentric approach or stewardship. Biocentric view is that human beings have an ethical responsibility towards future generations of human beings. So humans are stewards who must leave Earth in a good condition for future generations. So as a human being, according to biocentric approach, we have a responsibility to take care of the environment. It is not that we are the most important species on planet, or probably we can still say that we are the most important, but still we need to take care of the environment, not only for our coming generations, but for the other species living on the planet as well. Because अगर हम if we are doing a lot of deforestation or we are contaminating the water bodies, we are contaminating the air. So this is not only harmful for our next generations or even for our generations, but it is also harmful for the other species living on the earth. अगर आप पानी को pollute कर रहे हैं, then all the sea creatures or water creatures those will get negatively affected. इसी तरह अगर आप air को pollute कर रहे हैं, then all other creatures who breathe in air, they will get affected. ठीक है, इसी तरह if we are creating noise pollution, that will affect all the species on the earth. So in biocentric approach, this approach says that we have the responsibility to take care of the entire planet as a human being. Okay, and this is why we are called as stewards. Approach, and this biocentric approach is actually the basis of sustainable development. We have talked about sustainable development before. So this biocentric approach provides basis for the sustainable development. Now, when we talked about sustainable development earlier, I gave you a few examples that how civil engineers are contributing towards sustainable development. And I can quickly repeat those examples here. One example is the use of recycled aggregate, because when we demolish concrete structures, a lot of waste concrete is generated, and utilizing that waste concrete or disposal of that waste concrete is a problem. So what we are trying to do currently is that we are trying to recycle that concrete and get aggregate from that concrete and use that for newer concrete, and there are specific uses of that concrete. So use of recycled aggregate not only helps us in appropriately disposing of the waste concrete, further it helps in a reduction in resource depletion, because we are consuming large quantities of aggregates, but if we are recycling those aggregates, that will decrease the resource depletion. So this is one example. Second example is that we are trying to add other waste materials like waste marble powder or waste fly ash into concrete as a pozzolanic material, and as a result it contributes to the strength of concrete strength में भी help करता है, and that causes a reduction in the demand of cement. So demand अगर कम होगी, then production of cement will also be decreased, and that will help the environment, because production of cement generates carbon dioxide. So if the demand of cement is decreased, production of cement will be decreased, and the environment will remain clean. And similarly, there is another advantage of it is that we will be using some waste material whose disposable was an issue before. So the waste material है वो effectively use भी हो जाएगा. Another example of the contribution of civil engineers in sustainable development is use of carbon dioxide in concrete. That is a very new concept in our part of the world. Internationally, ये कुछ अर्से से पहले किया जा रहा है. Our department has recently initiated research on that. one of our students is working on that. That we are trying to add carbon dioxide in the concrete while mixing the concrete. That helps in removal of carbon dioxide from the environment. Further, it contributes to the strength of concrete as well. जो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड हम उसमें ऐड करते हैं, that causes that increases the strength of concrete, and as a result we have to use less amount of cement to gain same strength. So this is another way in which we civil engineers are contributing towards the sustainable development. So ये जो सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट का कॉन्सेप्ट है ये आता है बायोसेंट्रिक अप्रोच से. जो पोल्यूशन हम कॉज करते हैं एनवायरनमेंट में एज ए सिविल इंजीनियर और इन जनरल, लेट्स सी व्हाट आर डिफरेंट सोर्सेज ऑफ दैट. एयर पोल्यूशन, ऑल द इंडस्ट्री creates air pollution. Government has made laws on that how much contamination you can to what level of contamination you can add the or you can exhaust the smoke from the chimneys of industry. And similarly for the water pollution, there are laws which tell that how much water pollution can be or how much level of pollution can be present in the wastewater of any industry, and then government binds the industries to install wastewater treatment plant, so they have to treat their wastewater before disposing it off in any water body. And noise pollution, civil engineering projects contribute towards noise pollution as well. So we need to take care of that as well. One of the examples is driven piles. When we carry out any large scale projects, and let's say we are doing piling for that, so there are two types of piles. One are drilled piles, that for which we drill holes and then cast the piles. Other is the driven piles or hammered piles. Now when we hammer the piles, it creates a significant amount of noise. You can look for any videos of hammered piles or driven piles on YouTube, and you will find that when we do hammering, it causes a significant amount of noise. So when we execute projects, depending upon the location of the project, when we are selecting the type of pile that we need to install, we have to take care of the noise factor as well. And this brings another important thing in our mind, that whenever we execute any large scale project, at the time of approval of the project, we have to present a report which is known as environmental impact assessment report. So for all the large scale projects, we have to carry out a study in which we see that how our project is going to affect the environment. And currently you guys are in 6th semester. In your next year, in 7th semester and 8th semester, you guys will be studying two subjects on environmental engineering. Environmental engineering 1 and environmental engineering 2. And in those subjects, you will be taught that how to compile an environmental impact assessment report for any project. Let's say, अगर हम एक example उसकी देखें, so if you are working on project of a dam, now dam is a huge structure. You obstruct the path of a water body, so you build a huge wall, either maybe concrete wall or earthen wall, and that results in the creation of a huge reservoir of water, and that changes the entire ecosystem of that locality. So wo area jo pehle which was first outside of the water, now it gets submerged in the water. So new water species will develop in that area. और जो पौधे और जो परिंदे उस environment में थे, those birds might migrate from that location. जो plants हैं वो खत्म हो जाएंगे, वहाँ से submerge हो जाएंगे पानी में. जो human population थी वो भी will have to displace. We'll have to displace the roads or other infrastructure. So it will change the entire ecosystem of that location. So for such huge projects, and similarly, if we have let's say a highway that runs over hundreds of kilometers, so for such large projects, we have to carry out environmental impact assessment report. And in that report, we consider all these factors, whatever environmental impacts are there. depletion of ozone layer, that's a result of air pollution, environmental disasters like tsunami, which is related to the change in the climate, deforestation. Human beings are doing deforestation over large area for housing societies or for other industry or for other projects. So that deforestation is negatively affecting the environment. Global warming, we all hear this word a lot, that because of increased amount of pollution of carbon dioxide in the environment, the overall temperature of the earth is increasing, and that is causing our responsibilities towards the environment. Anybody having any question about this? Because after this we'll move to the next topic. So any question about environmental ethics, guys? I'll wait for a few seconds here. Okay, so if you guys do not have any question, let's proceed with our discussion. Alright, so the next topic, actually the last topic that we are going to talk about is computer and internet ethics. So before I start explaining this, I would like to hear some points from you guys. What do you guys think that what are the ethics for the use of computer and internet? And these ethics are not just limited to the use of computer now. I'm using this term because it's a part of our course content, but actually it includes the ethics for all the electronic devices and internet that we use internet on, for example, tablets or our mobile phones or laptops or like any electronic device. Okay. Would anybody like to comment on this? What do you guys think? What are the ethics? Jahangir, M. Jahangir, are you there? Seems that Jahangir is not there. Bilal. Bilal, are you there? Okay, Bilal. So, would you like to comment on this? Computer ethics क्या होते हैं आपके ख्याल में? मिसाल के तौर पर वो क्या हो सकते हैं ethics? पॉजिटिव वे में यूज करना, तो नेगेटिव यूज क्या हो सकता है इन डिवाइसेस का? स्कैम होते हैं, दैट्स ट्रू, बिल्कुल ठीक है. स्कैम स्कैम फाइनेंशियल ट्रांजैक्शंस में. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Rohan. Rohan, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Rohan. So, Rohan, what do you think? What are computer ethics, or what are some negative uses of computer? Let's say, if I rephrase my question.
सर कंप्यूटर की प्रॉपर्टी और कंपनी प्राइवेसी के रिलेटेड हो सकता है कंप्यूटर एथिक्स में.
Privacy, that's right. Privacy is very important. We need to respect the privacy of others who are using computer. That's true.
सर कंप्यूटर क्राइम वगैरह ही इसमें आ गए, साइबर क्राइम हो गया है इस तरह के, और प्राइवेसी उसका डेटा वगैरह जो लीक वगैरह हो जाता है लास्ट टाइम में भी मुझे सुनने में मिला.
ठीक है,
साइबर क्राइम में ये
प्राइवेसी है और डाटा जो लीक हो जाता है.
प्रॉपर्टी रिकॉर्ड सॉफ्टवेयर प्रोटेक्शन वगैरह सब ये है उसमें मेन के
सॉफ्टवेयर
कंप्यूटर के
प्रोटेक्शन,
एथिक्स में। जी सर।
ठीक है, alright, okay, fine, thank you. Alright, so let's see what are the computer ethics. So computer ethics are set of moral principles that regulate the use of computer. तो ये वो प्रिंसिपल्स हैं जो हमें बताते हैं कि कंप्यूटर को हमें किस तरह इस्तेमाल करना चाहिए. एंड इफ यू डू अ लिटिल सर्च ऑन computer ethics, you will find that there are 10 commandments of computer ethics. Those are very popular and a lot of people have reported those commandments. So I have also tried to report those 10 rules with slight modification. So let's see what are the computer ethics. First one is computer should not be used to harm other people. Now this is a pretty general like general rule. So whenever you are using computer, you need to see that you are not negatively affecting anybody else, and there are several different ways of negatively affecting others by the use of computer. We will see those examples just in a short while, but this one is a general one that even if we do not discuss that here, but later on if you are using computer, then just whenever you are using it, see whether your activity on the computer will negatively affect anybody else or not. If the answer is yes, then that activity is unethical. Okay, and that activity can be of several different types. We are just going to talk about those types. So one should not interfere with other people's computer work. Now, what are different ways in which we can interfere in other people's work? One of the example is viruses and malwares. So there are people who write viruses and malwares, and those viruses can negatively affect other people's work. लोगों की फाइल्स जो हैं वो डिलीट हो जाती हैं, लोगों की फाइल्स malwares के थ्रू sensitive information को कॉपी किया जा सकता है, and we all have experienced this virus issue. अगर आपका डाटा कोई स्टील नहीं भी करता, then it creates a lot of problem for you, and several times you have to reinstall your Windows. ठीक है, whatever softwares you have done installed, you have to reinstall them, you reinstall the window, so it wastes a lot of times, and sometimes some of the useful data is also wasted. Okay, so ये जो viruses की creation है, that's an unethical activity. Do not snoop around other people's file, and this is especially important when we are using public computers, like computers in our computer labs. ठीक है, आप computer lab में काम कर रहे हैं university की, or later on when you are working in a professional organization and there are some common computers, or in a library there are common computers. So जो common computers हैं उनमें दूसरे लोगों का डाटा हो सकता है, and it's unethical to snoop around those files, कि उन files को dig करना और देखना कि उन files में क्या है, या उन files को copy करना. That is an unethical activity. Whenever you use public computer, just focus on your personal work. जो आपको काम करना है वो काम करें और दूसरे लोगों की files में interfere ना करें. Do not use computer or internet to spread rumors. Now this is in the recent times, spreading rumors through computers has become really common. So as a responsible professional, and as a responsible, I would say a responsible human being, we should never spread rumors. और आज की दुनिया में rumors को spread करना, it's extremely easy. We have number of WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups, and we have friends on Instagrams. It's very easy to spread any rumor. But spreading that is totally unethical. We should never share anything or any information, any post that we are not sure about. अगर हम doubtful है किसी information के बारे में, we do not have authentic information on any topic, we should never spread that information. That is unethical. Do not use pirated softwares. Now this is something which is unfortunately very common in our part of the world. We use pirated softwares, but that is illegal and unethical. Internationally, the laws are strict about that. If anybody is found guilty of using pirated softwares, then he has to pay heavy damages and fines for that. Unfortunately, the rules are not that strict in our part of the world, because probably we cannot afford all these softwares. That's why piracy is common, but we need to know that this is wrong. And if you ever get a chance to work abroad, you need to be very careful about that, because there abroad this is not just unethical, it's illegal, and the punishments are strict against piracy. Do not use others' computer resources without authorization. So now what does this mean? In organizations, in professional organizations, every person has a login. For example, even in our university, logins, teachers have their own logins, students have their own logins, and different logins have different levels of access. Okay? For example, as a student, you have a student ID, and your student login can help you to see your own DMC, let's say. As a teacher, I can see DMC of all the students, but I cannot edit that. But some other person who is an administrator of, let's say, LMS or controller of examination, he can see the DMC of all the students, and further he can make alteration in that as well, right? So different people have different levels of access to the data in any organization. Sometimes when you are working in an organization, what you see is कि एक शख्स कंप्यूटर यूज कर रहा था and then he left and he forgot to log out from his account, and then you get an opportunity to use his login, but using his login is unethical. तो अगर आप उस login पे जो access उसको हासिल है, अगर आप वो access यूज करते हैं, चाहे वो डिफरेंट लेवल ऑफ एक्सेस नहीं है, बल्कि आपकी किसी दोस्त का ही लॉगिन है या आपकी किसी कोलीग का लॉगिन है, एंड यू यूज दैट एंड यू do any activity that you are not supposed to do, that is an unethical thing to do. अगर कभी आपको किसी और दूसरे का लॉगिन मिले भी अकाउंट लॉगिन हुआ हुआ, you must log that out immediately. Use social media with consideration and respect. Now this is another problem of our time, that on social media we see that a lot of people bully other. They are very rude, and they post harsh comments on others. That's not a good thing to do. If you disagree with somebody, it does not mean that you start abusing or harassing that person. If you disagree, you can show your disagreement. That's totally fine. But whatever you say, you are supposed to be respectful and considerate towards the others. And when we like few weeks ago, we talked about the ethics of disagreement, or the points that we need to keep in our mind while criticizing others, right? So you need to keep all those points in your mind while using the social media. Be careful when dealing with emails from unknown sources. So this is something which is important for your own safety. A lot of times we get emails which are basically scams, as some of our friend also mentioned that there are a lot of scams on internet, and those emails ask us to open an attachment or click on a link or reply with certain information. All such emails are scam emails or phishing emails. So we should be very careful while dealing with such email. अगर आपको email का subject देख के idea हो रहा है that is something not relevant to you, don't open such email. If you have opened that email, read it carefully. अगर आपको लगता है कि वो किसी कोई स्कैम है, do not click on any link. और इसका एक आसान तरीका इन स्कैम्स को आइडेंटिफाई करने का है, ये a lot of times जो स्कैम की ईमेल होती है उसके नीचे प्रॉपर सिग्नेचर नहीं होता, लोग डिटेल में अपना नाम या डेजिग्नेशन क्लियरली शो नहीं करते, वेबसाइट कहाँ से या किस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से वो बिलोंग करते हैं, वेग इन्फॉर्मेशन होती है. बाज़ आपको यूनिवर्सिटी लोग इस तरह प्रिटेंड करेंगे कि वो यूनिवर्सिटी के कोई एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन से ईमेल है, लेकिन उसके नीचे सिर्फ नाम लिखा होगा, उसका डेजिग्नेशन नहीं लिखा होगा, प्रॉपर सिग्नेचर नहीं होगा. सो दीज आर सम ऑफ द हिंट्स और क्लूज दैट हेल्प यू इन आइडेंटिफाइंग that whether an information is valid, whether an email is a genuine email or not. And one precaution that you may take is that if you are in doubt in some of the cases, then whatever from whatever organization that email appears to be, you can send a separate email to that organization to verify that information. बाज़ वक़्त आपको email आएगी जिसमें वो आपको कोई job offer करेंगे, and people get excited about that, especially at the beginning of the career. अगर कोई email आए जिसमें like you are already looking for a job and you find an email in which you have a job offer, then that might excite you, and in that excitement you might respond to that email and provide some information that you are not supposed to provide. ओके तो अगर इस तरह की कोई सिचुएशन आप और आपको लगती है कि हाँ एक इम्पॉर्टेंट ईमेल हो सकती है ये और आप कुछ मिस कर सकते हैं अगर आप उसको रिस्पॉन्ड ना करें, सो द बेस्ट वे इज that you write down a separate email to that organization and you verify that कि जी इस तरह की email मुझे आई है, ये offer है, is it true, is it valid or not. Okay, so these were some of the ethics that we need to keep in our mind while using the internet. The last one is that be careful while using free softwares. तो ये जो free softwares हैं या pirated softwares हैं, these softwares are also a source of viruses. ठीक है, आप देखते हैं अक्सर because a lot of times we are looking for free softwares, so that search sometimes takes us to some websites which are unsafe. ठीक है, और तो जब आप सॉफ्टवेयर इंस्टॉल करते हैं, डाउनलोड करते हैं, तो सॉफ्टवेयर के साथ malwares भी आपके सिस्टम में आ सकते हैं और आते हैं at times. So whenever we are using free or pirated softwares, we have to be very careful. Okay. So these were some of the ethics that we need to keep in our mind while using the computers. With this, the discussion about this computer ethics, the formal discussion is over, but there are a couple of manners as well that I want to share with you guys, that I would like you guys to keep in your mind while dealing with computers. Sometimes we visit somebody else's office. Let's say आप अपने teacher के office में जाते हैं या आप अपने boss के office में जाते हैं. So one manner is that you should not stare at the computer screen. अगर वहाँ पे computer है, if it's facing towards you, do not look at that screen. And if there are multiple chairs available in the room, then try to place yourself in a way that you are not facing the computer screen. बाज़ औक़ात computer screen जो है वो इस तरह inclined होती है कि अगर आप certain chair पे बैठे हैं तो आप computer screen को face कर रहे होंगे, but if you sit on some other chair, then you will not be facing the computer screen. तो एक मैनर ये है कि आप अपने आप को इस तरह से प्लेस करते हैं रूम में कि आप कंप्यूटर स्क्रीन को फेस ना कर रहे हो, so that you cannot see that what other person is doing on the computer. इसी तरह एक और मैनर ये है कि if somebody is logging into his or her account, then you are not supposed to look at the keyboard. अगर आप जाते हैं कहीं, let's say आपके टीचर है या आपका बॉस है और वो अपने अकाउंट में लॉग इन कर रहा है, so when he is providing the login information, you are not supposed to stare on the computer. ना आप स्क्रीन को देखेंगे और ना ही आप कीबोर्ड को देखेंगे. A lot of times people are not careful in this, लेकिन हमारे यहाँ शायद ये मैनर्स हम पढ़ाते नहीं हैं अपने स्टूडेंट्स को या बच्चों को, that's why they don't know that. लेकिन बाहर की दुनिया में आप देखेंगे कि people clearly they turn away their face from the computer or from the keyboard when they see that somebody else is logging in. तो ये आप मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि वो just pretend कर रहे होंगे, वो clearly अपना face जो है वो दूसरी तरफ कर लेते हैं, so that the other person can conveniently type in his personal information. तो I would like you guys to practice the same thing. At least आप जब कोई login अपना कर रहा है तो आप computer की तरफ ना देखें. That's a basic manner. Okay, so with this, our discussion about the computer ethics is concluded, and this also concludes our discussion about this course of professional ethics. I think we have discussed all the topics in quite a bit detail, and today was our last week of discussion about this. Now, before I used to ask you guys for any questions, I would like to give some concluding remarks on this course. That this was the very first time this course was taught in our department, and I also taught this course for the first time. मैंने आज से पहले कहीं और भी ये course नहीं पढ़ाया हुआ, and I found this course interesting, and I had a good experience teaching this course. You guys are good students. You guys submitted your assignments and appeared in the classes. Now we have discussed. Now let me get out of the PowerPoint and come to the screen. We have discussed several different topics in this course, but personally, the topic that I liked the most or that I enjoyed the most was about self-realization. I think तो जो सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन का टॉपिक है, दैट वाज अ वेरी पावरफुल टॉपिक. एंड in civil engineering, a lot of times we just talk about mathematical concepts or theories or formulas, uh, how to solve any problem, how to analyze a beam or a bridge or a dam or a barrage. We just talk about those things all the times. And we do not pay much attention to this kind of stuff, in particular the topic of self-realization. And I found that this topic of self-realization is very profound. It is far more important than any topic that you will study in civil engineering, because self-realization, it deals with your life. And definitely civil engineering is not the only thing that we'll be practicing in our life. We have several different roles. We are a family member, we are a member of this society, we are national of this country, we are a human being, and we have several different roles as a human being. We will be parents sometime, we are kids, we have siblings, we have colleagues, we have class fellows, we have neighbors. So we have so many different roles, and we have our own personalities, we have our own strengths and weaknesses. So the topics that we covered in or the points that we discussed when we were talking about self-realization, I personally found those points very important. So what I want is, I want all of you guys to really work on that. आप जितने भी जो टॉपिक हम पढ़ते हैं सिविल इंजीनियरिंग में, उन टॉपिक्स की उनकी एक लिमिटेशन है. आप मिसाल के तौर पे, आप में से जो लोग स्ट्रक्चरल इंजीनियरिंग की तरफ चले जाएंगे, शायद वो कभी भी ब्रिज, कोई बैराज डिज़ाइन या हाइड्रोलिक डिज़ाइन ऑफ ए वियर वो कभी नहीं करेंगे. या जो लोग स्ट्रक्चरल डिज़ाइन में जा रहे हैं, वो प्रॉब्ली सर्वे वाला काम कभी भी नहीं करेंगे, राइट? जो जितने भी प्रोफेशनल हैं, शायद आप लोग मैनुअल ड्राइंग अपनी ज़िंदगी में कभी भी नहीं बनाएंगे, आप लोग ऑटोकैड यूज़ कर रहे होंगे. कुछ लोग जो जियोटेक की तरफ चले जाएंगे, वो कभी भी ब्रिज का स्ट्रक्चरल डिज़ाइन नहीं करेंगे, या बिल्डिंग का, किसी बीम का, कॉलम का स्ट्रक्चरल डिज़ाइन नहीं करेंगे. तो जब आप लोग ग्रेजुएट हो जाएंगे, यू गाइस विल गो इनटू डिफरेंट फील्ड्स एंड यू गाइस विल हैव डिफरेंट एरियाज ऑफ एक्सपर्टीज. लेकिन जो टॉपिक्स हमने यहाँ पढ़े हैं, जो टॉपिक स्पेशली हमने सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन में और सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट में पढ़े हैं, no matter what are you doing, what will you do in your professional life, those topics will always be relevant to you. तो उन टॉपिक्स में जो जिन चीज़ों को हमने स्टडी किया है, आई रियली वांट यू गाइस टू प्रैक्टिस दोस थिंग्स, टू प्रैक्टिस मेडिटेशन, टू केयरफुली आइडेंटिफाई योर सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट, डिज़ाइन योर लाइफ. लाइक आप अपने गोल्स डिज़ाइन करें, डिज़ाइन स्मार्ट गोल्स. एंड वन ऑफर दैट आई वांट टू गिव टू ऑल ऑफ यू, that when you are analyzing your life, I understand that this is very challenging, and you will, if you have not done that before, you will find it hard. So I offer my personal help to all of you. If you face any difficulty or any challenge while analyzing and designing your life, while analyzing your personality, or while defining your goals, you can come to me and we can talk about that. I don't have solution to every problem, but at least I can give you a second opinion, and I think I can be helpful in some extent, because I really, all of you are my students, and I really want you guys to be successful in your life. So whatever help you need in defining your goals or in achieving this objective of self-realization, you can come to me and we can talk about that. And this self-realization is basically a lifelong process. It's not that you will start it today and tomorrow you will get it. You might not get it even 1 month or 1 year. It's a continuous process. You keep on refining it, and with the passage of time, you will get a refined model of yourself. Okay. And one last thing regarding the goals that I want to mention is, sometimes we define goals when we are not able to achieve them. It frustrates us. One way out that I mentioned before when we were talking about the goals was कि आप अपने goals को redefine करें और उस पर काम करते रहें. और उसका एक और तरीका भी है. एक और तरीका ये है जो आपको literature में मिलेगा, that instead of defining goals, you define a process. आप कहते हैं कि एक certain let's say मैं एक सर्टेन जीपीए डिफाइन कर लेता हूँ, तो प्रॉबेबली शायद उस जीपीए को अचीव करना जो है वो मुश्किल है और वो कॉन्टिन्यूस एक बर्डन है, एंड एट टाइम्स पीपल गेट डिप्रेस्ड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट और स्ट्रेस्ड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट। तो आप क्या कर सकते हैं कि बजाय एक गोल को डिफाइन करने के आप एक प्रोसेस डिफाइन कर लें। वो प्रोसेस ये हो सकता है कि ओके एवरी डे आई विल बी studying let's say for 4 hours. That's a process that you have defined. ठीक है, no matter whatever the outcomes, I will be studying for 4 hours every day, and I will keep on doing it for the entire semester, and let's see what do I achieve at the end. So इससे क्या होगा कि आप बाज़ जो गोल का प्रेशर है, like वो भी एक तरीका है ऑल्दो, और वो हेल्प करता है, लेकिन बाज़ लोगों को वो हेल्प नहीं करता। इसलिए आई एम गिविंग यू एन अल्टरनेट वे। इंस्टेड ऑफ डिफाइनिंग अ गोल, यू डिफाइन अ प्रोसेस। क्या आप एक प्रोसेस डिफाइन कर लेते हैं कि मैं ये काम करता रहूंगा थ्रू आउट द सेमेस्टर, एंड लेट्स सी व्हाट रिजल्ट्स डू आई अचीव, एंड देन आई रिफाइन माय प्रोसेस अगेन। तो ये दो अप्रोचेस हैं जो कि आप यूज कर सकते हैं। And with this, I think we are running out of time. Let me quickly mark your attendance. And meanwhile, if you guys have any question, you can just speak up. We still have 4 minutes. So if you guys have any question, yes, speak up. You are most welcome.
सर रिलेटेड टू मिड्स एग्जाम, सर हमें केस सिनेरियोज आ सकते हैं?
बिल्कुल आ सकते हैं। Be prepared for that. Scenarios आ सकते हैं, and then you will be asked about the solution, the ethical solution. What will you do in that situation? Okay.
ओके सर। सर ये एक लॉन्ग क्वेश्चन टाइप होगा या टू द पॉइंट आंसर्स?
नहीं, थोड़ी आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन उसकी देनी होगी कि if you are opting a certain option, then why you are opting that. Okay, so you will have to give description to that, description of that.
Okay sir.
ठीक है। Any other question, guys? Any other question?
सर एक रिक्वेस्ट है
जी
सर, जो आज आपने असाइनमेंट वो 3 अनाउंस किया है, उसकी डेट 2 जुलाई है, तो मेरा ख्याल वो फाइनल के बाद में अगर हम उसको आफ्टर मिड्स कर लें, इट इज बेटर। कब 3-4 डेज रहते हैं
जो आपकी असाइनमेंट है, एक तो वो बहुत लंबी असाइनमेंट नहीं है, और दूसरे ये कि आई गिव यू एन एंटायर वीक, पूरा हफ्ता मैंने उसके लिए आपको दिया। सो आई थिंक वो बेहतर है, और ये असाइनमेंट्स वगैरह के काम जो हैं बेहतर होता है कि एग्ज़ाम से पहले आप कर लें। एग्ज़ाम के दिनों में फिर उसके लिए टाइम फिजिबल नहीं होता। तो आई वुड स्टिक विद दिस डेट। आप 2 तारीख को, जो कि फ्राइडे है, उस वक्त जमा करवाएं इसको और इसको कंक्लूड करें, ताकि आप फिर जब आपके एग्जाम और साइकोमोटर शुरू हो जाए तो आप उन चीज़ों पे फोकस कर सकें।
एक्चुअली सर प्रॉब्लम ये है कि हम सैटरडे को हॉस्टलाइट्स को अलाउ किया जाएगा, हमें फ्राइडे को मतलब सारी वो अरेंजमेंट्स करनी है, और हमें पेपर भी ऑलरेडी ही प्रिपेयर करना है, क्योंकि हम आके फर्स्ट पेपर प्रिपेयर भी नहीं कर सकते मंडे, तो इसलिए अब 3 to 4 डेज देते हैं।
3 to 4 days आर एनफ। और असाइनमेंट मैंने आज नहीं दिया आपको, ठीक है ना? असाइनमेंट तो आपको 2-3 दिन पहले से दी हुई है, तो आई वुड सजेस्ट कि आप उसको करें कंप्लीट करें, इससे पहले करें, ताकि आई डोंट वांट कि वो एग्जाम के बाद हमारी कोई भी एक्टिविटी चले, उसको एग्जाम से पहले कंक्लूड करें।
ओके सर।
ओके, ऑलराइट, एनी अदर पॉइंट गाइस? Alright guys, so if you do not have any question further, then class for the time for the class is over. So see you guys on campus inshallah. Okay, Allah Hafiz.